Hi, it's Professor Davis. Here's your topics checklist for sections 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. Well, in this chapter, we move away from confidence intervals and move toward the topic of hypothesis testing. So in section 8.2, we kind of lay out the basics for hypothesis testing there. A couple of things you need to know from this section. First, finding critical values for various levels of significance. And there's a table of values in the course information area that I made up that you can use and print out, and that'll help you to compute the critical values for left tail test, right tail test, and two tail test for various levels of significance. That table will also be included in in the next test you take as well. So in this section, we also want to be able to state the final conclusion of a hypothesis test. And the reason being is there's two components to stating a conclusion. First, we need to know if the claim is the null hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis. And then the second thing we need to know is the null hypothesis accepted or not accepted? Figure 8.7 can help you with that, so take a look at that. And then finally, the steps in hypothesis testing. There's two types of testing that we'll do in this chapter. The p-test, the p-value method, pardon me, and that's in figure 8.8, so you want to check that out. In figure 8.9, we have the traditional method, where we compare the critical value to a test statistic that we compute. And then in section 8.3, we actually go ahead and start these tests, and we start with a claim about a proportion P. So you want to check out the 8 steps on hypothesis testing on page 414 of your text, and that'll help you walk through all the things we need to do for the test. I'll kind of when you take a test on this, I'll kind of walk you through these steps so you don't have to memorize them. And so we want to be able to do the two types of testing: the traditional method, where we compare a test statistic to the critical value, and then we want to be able to do the p-value method, where we compute the p-value and compare that to our level of significance. And like I said at the bottom of this screen, there's also a confidence interval method. We won't be using that, so you don't need to worry about the computation behind the confidence interval method, because that lacks some of the reliability that we need to really do much of this testing. Then finally, in section 8.4, we want to move from testing a proportion to testing the population mean mu. And this is for large samples when we know what the population standard deviation is. Same sort of thing here. Once you get section 8.3, 8.4 is just a short extension of that. We want to be able to use the p-value method and the traditional method to do both of these computations. And one thing I also wanted to mention is in terms of the using your calculator to help you. If you go to the if you press the stat key, go over to the test menu. The z-test, the very first option you'll see on your calculator there, can help you compute the test statistic and the p-value, and can go ahead and find this stuff for you. I'm sorry, it's not the z-test. It's called the one proportion z-test for the proportion, and then it's called the t-test for the population mean, mu. So let's take a look at the exercises for this section. Again, we want to use those testing methods from our graphing calculator to help us. You'll see some StatCast in the StatCast area that will actually walk through those problems for you on the calculator. So in section 8.2 for homework, we want to do, starting on page 409, problems 7, 9, 17, 19, 29, 31. And then in section 8.3, those kind of get us ready to do the test. And then testing the population proportion P, we want to do problems 5 through 25 odd, page 120. And then testing the population mean mu for large samples and the standard deviation being known, page 429, problems 5 through 19 odd. So there is your topics checklist for sections 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4.